Actually.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me in these difficult times. But I know I'm anxious. I'm worried about what's going to happen. I know many of you are feeling the same. And I can only imagine what people who are directly affected are feeling like, what their families are feeling like, what the medical personnel is going through. So I just wanted to mention my dear friend is, her daughter opened the fund for meal for residents in Flushing Hospital. So if anybody is interested, I can provide the link for you and you can check it out. And my other friend, dear friend, her mom is making masks at home for medical personnel. And I also have information about that. So please ping me, or I'll include it in the Facebook page, and you can look there. I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Marina. I offer cooking events in my house, in this kitchen here. People come, it's a social thing. We cook, we socialize, we meet new people. I offer a menu. We usually cook for 3-4 things and dessert, and then we eat. We have some wine, I have music, people dance sometimes, we have a good time. So I have some events planned. Obviously, they're all virtual for now. And so you can check out my Facebook page or my website. And so, with that said, we are on the pre-Passover quest to make 2 cakes. And after we do that, we're gonna share that with your family, and I'll show you how to do it. I love these 2 cakes. I've been making them a while now, maybe not for every Passover, every other Passover. I like them because they stand their own. They don't imitate anything, any other dessert that is made with traditional way with flour, and it tastes wonderful. So whoever's going to follow me, please turn your ovens to 350 degrees. And we're gonna start. So we're gonna start with apple cardamom cake. Obviously from the name, you understand that we're gonna use cardamom in the recipe. What is cardamom? It's made out of seed pods of various plants that are from ginger family. And I will show you what they look like. I suggest when you use cardamom, you buy the pods. If I could just show, right here. They look like this. And you grind them together with the skin, and inside are like little black seeds. I don't know if I can break it right now, but right here. So, yeah, something like this. But you grind it with a skin, and you put it in your recipe with other ingredients. So like I said, I suggest that you buy cardamom in pods because it goes bad, loses its flavor very quickly. And when you buy a ground one, it's not gonna be as good and flavorful. So let me do this, draw this out. So we're also gonna make powdered sugar for the cake, because I don't know if you know, powdered sugar that's sold in supermarkets has cornstarch, and cornstarch is not kosher for Passover. So if you have coffee grinder or spice grinder, you can grind your own powdered sugar and add a little bit of potato starch. Starch is added for in order to avoid clumping. But you can certainly use just powdered sugar with anything else, without anything else. So we are preheating oven to 350 degrees. Always preheat oven. I haven't encountered any recipes. I mean, I've been cooking a long time. I haven't encountered any recipe where you would put something in a cold oven. So always preheat it, wait until it's hot to the temperature that the recipe requires. So we're gonna start with oiling a pan, springform pan I have here. Okay. You can certainly use a cake pan or anything else. This is more convenient because you can unmold it easily, like that. And you can take the cake out. You need 9 or 9.5 inch pan or a cake mold or anything that you have at home that's round and you can make a cake in. I was out of parchment paper, so I used lunch bag, brown paper bag. It's certainly fine to use it. It's not as good and thin as parchment paper, but you know, it's a quick fix for if you don't have it. So we're gonna use vegetable oil, and I'm gonna oil the pan. You oil the pan, and then you put parchment paper, and you oil the parchment paper. Because if you oil the pan, it's not gonna move. The parchment paper is not gonna move. You can use paper towel like I'm doing, and basically add some oil and just smudge around. Okay, so it looks like this. And we're gonna use a little bit of matzo meal to sprinkle around, such as this. So I'm doing it like this, and I'm gonna add some more. So there's some on the sides, and you just swirl around so the matzo meal will stick to the oil on the sides. This is obviously done so the cake doesn't stick to the pan. So we're gonna put that aside, and we're gonna start making the cake. We need 1 cup of almonds, and usually I toast. The recipe calls for toasted almonds. You can use untoasted, but I like to toast them because the flavors, they become more flavorful and more nutty, and you'll feel the wonderful aroma in your kitchen when you're toasting the nuts. So I toasted them a little bit already. Just show you. So they're toasted a little bit, so you see like the dark patches on them. You always watch the nuts because they're not toasting until they burn. So you have to watch them and make sure your flame is sort of low to medium, and maybe 5 minutes. So they look like this and they start to smell. So I'm gonna put the nuts and almonds into a food processor. Can you see the food processor? Hold on. Let me make it better. Okay. So I'm putting the almonds in the food processor, and I'm gonna grind them. with cardamom. So there is half a teaspoon of cardamom and quarter teaspoon of salt, and also there's half a cup of I'll show you matzo meal in here. So I'm gonna put this with almonds, and we're gonna grind it in the food processor. Someone asked me what to do if they don't have food processor. You can certainly use almond flour. You can use, maybe you can use coconut flour or sunflower seeds. I've never tried it. I don't know if you can find it. You can probably find any flour these days in the supermarket. I mean, in the good days. I don't know if you're gonna go looking for special flour right now, but maybe next Passover. So I'm gonna grind this. Make sure you don't grind it to paste. You grind it in pulses. And you just stop and check whether you still have big pieces of nuts in there, and you continue to pulse. We're good. I'm going to show you what it looks like. So this is what it looks like. So basically it's almost like flour, but it's more coarse. It looks like this. It smells wonderful with cardamom and almonds. So we're gonna put this aside. Let me just wash my hands. We're gonna put this aside, and we're gonna do a second step. But before we do the second step, does anybody have any questions? Raise your hand if you have any questions, or you can also type your questions in the chat. Let me see if we have.
We have some question in the chat.
Okay. In the dry mix, we had almonds, cardamom, salt, and almond, and matzo meal. I will tell you proportions again. So that was 1 cup of almonds, half a cup of matzo meal, half a teaspoon of salt, and quarter teaspoon of half a teaspoon of cardamom, and half a teaspoon of salt. Okay, so we're gonna go and do eggs. I have 5 eggs here. They are room temperature. They are room temperature because we're gonna whip the egg whites. We're gonna separate them, and we're gonna whip the egg whites, as well as egg yolks. But the egg whites whip better when they are room temperature. On the other hand, to separate the eggs is better when they're cold. So what you do is you separate them when they're cold, and you leave them at room temperature. And then they will be ready to go. So I have food processor here, and I'm gonna use 2 bowls. So what's gonna happen is I'm gonna use smaller bowl for egg whites, and I'm gonna use bigger bowl for egg yolks, because we're gonna mix egg yolks and sugar and almond mixture eventually all together, and then we're gonna add egg yolks to the egg whites. We're gonna add egg whites to egg yolks. So you need, for the final mixture, you need a bigger bowl. So here we go. Let me grab a knife. Make sure that you're not getting any egg yolk into egg white mixture. Best is if you use a separate dish to crack the eggs and then put them with the rest of them. So that if sometimes you cut the yolk, you can take it out with a spoon and not mix with everything else. When the yolk gets into egg whites, the egg whites acquire fat, and they're not gonna whip as well. I can't hear any of you. I feel like I'm talking to myself, but that's okay. I'm sure you're all listening. By the way, the color doesn't matter. They're all the same. Yeah, it doesn't when you're buying the eggs. So again, I'm separating 5 eggs. And then I'm gonna mix eggs with sugar. Just throw this out and clean it up. So I'm gonna start with egg yolks, right? And I have 3/4 cup of sugar. So I'm gonna add the sugar here. Some recipes they call for starting to whip the eggs first and then adding the sugar. And I'm talking about egg yolks only. I use this for the egg yolks and the other one for the egg whites. And so we're gonna do this for 2-3 minutes until the egg yolks become pale and all the sugar disappears. They're gonna become pale and thick, and you're almost gonna see ribbons on top of the egg yolks. And I will show you what that looks like. And you can do medium to high speed. I'm just looking at if we have any questions. Yes. I forgot to mention while the egg yolks are whipping that this is this event is a child of Secret Chef, which is me, and COJECO. And so COJECO has the recipes, and they're gonna post it right after this event or maybe during. So Marina, who's controlling the Zoom, please post the recipe. I'm gonna turn on the lights because it's kind of getting a little dark. lighter color and the sugar starts to disappear. So we want to do it for a little bit more until it gets even thicker. While the egg yolks are getting to the right consistency, I'm gonna peel the apples. I'm just gonna stop for a minute and show you what it looks like. I think we're almost there. They're very pale and they're very thick. And sort of bubbly. They almost have the consistency of condensed milk, sweet condensed milk. I'm probably gonna do it for another 30 seconds. And you cannot overbeat the yolks. I mean, I've never seen it. You cannot ruin them. However, when we do egg whites, I'm gonna explain that you can certainly mess that up. So you see almost like there's ribbons on top of the egg yolk. So I'm gonna leave that, that's ready. And we're gonna peel the apples. The recipe calls for Granny Smith, obviously because they're sour, and I like sour. I didn't have Granny Smith. You can certainly use any apples. So I'm using what I have. I'm gonna peel them first. This is something I bought in IKEA and it works amazingly good. It's sharp, it's light, it's very comfortable to hold. I highly recommend. I think it's just a couple of dollars. So sometimes I guess it's not necessary to spend a lot of money on things that work well. So I'm gonna do the apples, and I'm using the large side, the larger side. Everybody with me so far? Anybody has another question? Okay, so we have the apples. We're gonna mix the apples with egg yolk, and we're gonna add the almond mixture that we grinded to that. I wish we had some music, but in my experience, music doesn't go well with Zoom. So if anybody has a way to do that, please suggest. Maybe not for today, but next time. So I'm gonna add the apples to the egg yolks. Let me turn the camera. I will also add the almond mixture to that. Let me go from another side, it's more comfortable. You can add everything at once, it's okay. And I'm leaving the food processor because we're gonna grind some more nuts for the other cake. And now I'm gonna mix this. Make sure you always scrape the sides when you're mixing different sort of different things like that, different texture. So I'm gonna scrape the sides and I'm gonna run the mixer again. Usually the thicker stuff sticks to the bottom. That's why you need to sort of help the mixer to make sure everything is uniform. So that's ready. And we're gonna do the egg whites. I'm gonna put this aside. I'm using the whisk attachment for the egg whites. And you start on a slow speed. So essentially when we're whipping the egg whites, we're whipping the air inside the proteins. And so the proteins stretch. And that's how the egg whites become large and fluffy. You have to be careful. So you start slow, like with everything else. You know, it stretches better when you start slow. And then you increase speed to high to medium, medium to high. And we're gonna add salt to the egg whites. Just a pinch of salt, or you can use a measuring spoon. It's about a quarter teaspoon. Salt helps stabilize the egg whites. So I'm gonna start on low until it sort of becomes foamy. And then I'm gonna increase the speed and add sugar. So right now my mixer is on 2. I'm probably gonna do like something like 3. And I'm gonna wash my hands. So the egg whites will start to get foamy. It's just about a little bit more. Maybe we can start increasing the speed. The trick with egg whites is not to overbeat them because you pumping air into them, and at some point the proteins will break and the air will escape, and you're gonna have a mess. I'm going to show you what it looks like in different stages. So now I'm going to increase the speed. Actually, you're not going to see it with the color. I'm going to start adding sugar slowly. Again, egg whites, they like gentle touch. Everything you do slowly with it. You don't bang them, you don't splash anything inside, like if you have to add vanilla. You do it very gently, and so is with sugar. So I'm going to start adding sugar little by little. Sugar also helps the egg white to become nice and fluffy and thick. I'm going to show you right now. They are holding soft peaks, the egg whites. I don't know if you heard that before, but this is what it looks like. You know, it's not holding up yet, but it has some structure already. The rest of the sugar. It's about 1/4 teaspoon of salt. The question was how much salt in egg whites. It's about 1/4 teaspoon of pinch of salt. And sugar. 1/4 cup of sugar. So we added 3/4 cup of sugar to the egg yolks, and we added 1/4 cup of sugar to the egg white. Altogether, 1 cup of sugar is in this case. I usually cut the sugar. I don't like how much sugar I mean, every single recipe I encounter, I think, it's too much sugar. And I don't like too sweet, so I usually cut it. And I think I put half of 1/4 cup. So it's getting there. It looks, I don't know if you can see like this. I maybe whip it a little bit more. It's almost thick. So you have these clouds like this. I'll show you again, right? And they stand up like this. Let me just wash my hand, and we're gonna put everything together. Okay. We need the table, please. Okay. So I'm gonna put the egg yolks back. When you put this together, egg yolk mixture and egg whites, we add a little bit of egg whites first to sort of loosen the mixture because it's very thick, as you see. Okay, so I'm gonna put a little bit, maybe 1/4, just like that. 1/4. If you see it. Just a spoonful, you know. And then you mix. And the rest, you do it by hand because you need to fold the egg whites into the egg yolk mixture. And like I said, the egg whites are very tender, so you don't want to mix them with a mixer. You want to do it slowly by hand, and you want to fold them. And I'll show you how to do that. Let me just put this away. So I'm gonna add some, maybe another quarter, and I'm gonna fold, just like that. Very slowly, no harsh movements, with love, but make sure you're scrape from the bottom, because as I said, the thick part of the mixture always sticks to the bottom, and you want everything to be uniform. So I'm gonna add another half. And we're gonna fold it again. It's so becoming fluffy and yummy looking, and I'm ready to eat it, just like that. Again, make sure there are no clumps, but make sure you don't beat it hard, just fold it. Fold it and scrape from the bottom. Make sure you get all the stuff that's thicker from the bottom. And I'm gonna add the rest. So it's fluffy and nice. I have some egg whites still, so I'm trying to work that in, so there are no lumps of one mixture or the other. It mixed well together and it's uniform. Scraping from the bottom. So you see how I'm doing it in a circular motion to sort of fold it in, to keep egg whites from deflating. So I'm gonna take my prepared dish, springform pan, and we're gonna put it in. Just like that. And I'm gonna pop it in the oven after this. In the hot oven. You're gonna smooth the top. And you can top it once, just like that. And I'm gonna pop it in the oven. I suggest you use a tray covered with foil paper or anything, because you never know with these spring pans, sometimes they leak and you don't want to clean up, like burn mess in the oven. So I always put it on a tray with covered with something. So let me just get the tray. It's not a tray, it's a baking sheet. So it looks like this, and I'm just gonna pop it in the oven. And now it's 6:40, and I'm gonna put a timer. The recipe requires to bake it from 40 to 45 minutes. I usually put the timer for less, and then I start checking. So since my springform pan is a little bit bigger than the recipe requires, so the mixture is thinner, it's gonna bake faster. So I suggest you put it, if you're using the dish that's required in the recipe, which is 9 to 9.5 inches, put the timer on 40 minutes and then start checking. You will smell when the cake is ready. So I'm gonna put the timer for 35 for me and 40 for you. Each oven is individual, so you have to know. Just check if I put this correctly. Yes. So we're done with one cake. We're gonna move on to the next. I just need to clean these bowls here that I used so I can use them for the other cake. So give me a minute, take a break for a minute.
Marina, if we couldn't find matzah cake meal, is there a good replacement?
Hold on. Go ahead.
If we couldn't find matzah cake meal, is there a good replacement?
Oh, yes. I actually like to use regular matzah meal in this recipe. So, I mean, I tried it, was by the accident. I didn't have the cake meal, and I only had a lot of matzah meal, and I used that all together. Instead of 1 and 1 cup of each, I used 2 cups of matzah meal, and I think
Will it work for the next cake?
yes.
Okay.
So the next cake is almond honey lemon cake, and it's sort of reminiscent of baklava. And I'll tell you a little funny story about baklava that I told in my other class, where we made Napoleon, and we made baklava, and we made French apple tart. So it's an old Sephardic tale about a Jew, a Christian, and a Muslim, and how they went to Istanbul to look for fortune. But they didn't find any fortune, but they found a gold coin, and they decided to buy a piece of baklava with it. And after they bought it, they realized there's only one piece and there's 3 of them. So what are they gonna do? They decided to go to sleep, and whoever has the best dream the next morning, that person will have the baklava. And so they went to sleep, and the Jew woke up, and he was hungry, and he went to taste the baklava. And he tasted once, and he tasted twice, until the whole piece was gone. And so he went to sleep. So next morning, the 3 of them, they went to a coffee house to sort of tell their dreams and let the customers decide, people who were in the coffee house decide who dream is the best. So a Muslim said that Muhammad came to him, and he took him to heaven and showed him beautiful things, and he was amazed. And George, the Christian, he said, Jesus came to me, and he took me to heaven, and he showed me heaven and beautiful gardens and wonderful things, and it was amazing. And people in the coffee house, they were also amazed with these 2 stories, and they said, well, how can there be a 3rd one if these 2 stories are already so good? And so the Jew came out, and he said, well, my story is not so good, it's not so interesting, but Moses came to me while I was sleeping, and he said, well, the Muslim is in heaven with Muhammad, and Christian is in heaven with Jesus. Who knows when they're gonna return? You can have the baklava. So we're gonna do the next cake. The base is sort of similar. I'm gonna make the syrup. There's cake and there's syrup. So it's sort of similar again. Baklava is made out of layers with nuts, and then it's baked, and the syrup is added. And this is similar. So I have honey. It's 1 cup of honey, 2/3 cup of water, 1/3 cup of sugar, and 1/4 cup of lemon juice. And I'm gonna put it on the stove, and I'm gonna let it boil to sort of let the sugar melt. And I'm gonna leave it to cool off while we're making the cake.
Марина,
Да?
вопрос. А вот для предыдущего торта сколько должно быть дегрейс? Я пропустила.
350?
350?
350, and this one is also 350. So I think by the time we're done with this, or maybe, you know, we'll have to wait a little bit. You'll have to wait a little bit.
Да, я и только что сказала. Хорошо, 350, поняла, спасибо.
So we're gonna grind the nuts again. And 1/2 cup of sugar. Sorry, this is not a, yes, 1/2 cup of sugar. To the same consistency, sort of coarse meal, like a cornmeal, maybe just a little bit bigger. So, and you're gonna pulse it again and to make sure you're not gonna grind it and paste. Uh-oh. So I just stop and check to make sure that it's not too fine. Just a couple of pulses. I'm gonna show you what it looks like. This is almonds and sugar. Looks like this. I'm gonna put it aside. And the recipe calls for 6 eggs. I'm using 3 because I'm doing half the recipe. You're using everything just like on the recipe. 6 eggs and 1.5 cup of sugar. We're gonna put it in the mixer and we're gonna mix it together. We're not separating anything. And a knife. And I'm gonna put the rest of the sugar here. Let me just grab a whisk. And this is supposed to mix for 10 minutes. So I hope it's not too noisy. We're mixing this until it's also thick and pale and all the sugar is dissolved. I'm gonna add the rest of the sugar. But you can add everything at once. But it's gonna get thick. Then we're gonna add half a cup of vegetable oil. I'm gonna add half a cup of vegetable oil, and I have 2 cups of matzo meal, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, and half a teaspoon of allspice. Whoever is making sauce on the stove, it should be hot by now. You can turn it off. I mean, check. Mine is hot and it was bubbling, so I turned it off. So the sauce is ready. I'm going to show you what it looks like. It looks like this. It smells with honey and lemon. It smells wonderful. I think you can put cinnamon stick here as well, you know, next time. Traditional baklava calls for cinnamon stick or lemon juice or apple juice. You can definitely experiment with the sauce. You're not gonna, I think you can only make it better. You cannot make it worse.
Should the sugar be totally dissolved before you turn it off?
Yes, it will be dissolved. It will be thicker. It will get pale.
It'll be like a simple syrup, like a typical simple syrup, right?
I'm talking about the syrup. No, right now it's hot, so it's liquidy, but it's gonna thicken a little bit, but not too much.
Okay, thank you.
We're gonna pour the cake into a dish like that. I already made one, so I'm reusing parchment paper because, like I said, I'm out of it. There's nothing wrong with reusing things. I'm using the small dish because, like I said, I'm making half a recipe. And I'm going to show you what you're going to use if you're making a full recipe. So it looks like this. It can be glass or metal or anything that will hold this. This is a 3-quart dish. So you will use something like this. Let's see our eggs. So they're getting thicker. They're like thicker than the heavy cream, I would say. So let me beat them some more. So like I was saying, I'm gonna add oil. I'm gonna add matzo meal and salt and cinnamon and allspice. And I'm also gonna add lemongrass. getting there. So they are sort of fluffy. Again, I would say their consistency of condensed milk. And so I'm gonna add the rest of the ingredients. It's very simple. This cake is very simple, I think. I'm gonna add oil. You're gonna use vegetable oil, obviously, not corn oil. And I'm gonna add the mixture of matzo meal and spices. You can add everything at once. And you can add, we're gonna add lemon zest that I prepared before. And I'm just gonna mix it together. I don't think the recipe that I provided has salt, does it? Or the other one doesn't have salt? Let me just check. Yes, this doesn't mention salt. I would add 1/4 teaspoon of salt to this. I mean, salt always brings the flavor. If you don't have salt, the things will be bland, you know, like bread or anything else. I'm just gonna add a little bit of salt. So just write down with your pencil on the recipe when you print it out to remind yourself to add some salt. This is ready. You don't have to mix it a lot, just to make sure that it's uniform. Again, I'm gonna scrape the sides. Always scrape the sides. And I'm just gonna run it for 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Just make sure it's all mixed and uniform. And you can see it's sort of thick but runny. And I'm gonna take my form, my baking dish, and I'm gonna pour it in. You can also oil the parchment paper. You don't have to use that parchment paper. I mean, I need to take it out because I'm taking these cakes to Englewood Hospital after. So you can oil them. You don't have to use anything because if you just bake it like this, you can cut it inside and eat it out of here. You're gonna have more, obviously, double. You're gonna have double because you are making full recipe. I'm just making half the recipe. And I'm gonna wait until the other one is done, and I'm gonna pop that in. So, like I said, I baked, I don't know if I said, but I baked 2 cakes before to show you what they look like, because I don't want you to wait until
I'm sorry, I have a question. What's the temperature of the oven?
Same, it's 350. It's the same for both cakes.
Thank you.
So I baked them before so that you can see what they look like. And I'm going to show you what they look like. So imagine like in a TV show, right? They cut and then disappears, right? I put the raw one in the oven and I take out the ready one. Okay, so I'm gonna show you how to take it out. You have to run a knife around the edges. Get a different knife. So you run the knife around the edges, make sure it doesn't stick. Okay, then you unmold. Let me ask before we proceed to the last step if anybody has a question.
Marina, how long the cake should be in the oven?
Say it again.
How long the cakes should be in the oven?
The first one will be in the oven 40 to 45 minutes, and the second one will be in the oven also for 45 minutes.
Thank you.
So it's the same, easy to remember.
Oh,
You can-
Marina, excuse me. I think we missed a step. We added the matzo meal, but what happened with the almonds and the sugar that you mixed over?
You have to add everything together. Did I miss the step? So you add, if you're following me, add everything together and put it in the mold.
And what about the syrup? What do we do with the syrup?
Syrup is after it's baked.
Okay, you're gonna tell us more about the syrup?
I will show you right now. So we're gonna do this cake first. I'm gonna unmold it. I already unmolded. I'm gonna put it on a platter, and we're gonna sprinkle it with sugar. So it's very easy to take it out because I have parchment paper, and you can even take the parchment. Here you go. Parchment paper away like this. So this is what it looks like. And I'm gonna just sprinkle it with powdered sugar. Again, like I mentioned in the beginning, kosher for Passover, powdered sugar, the powdered sugar that's sold in the supermarket, regular one, has cornstarch and it's not kosher for Passover, so you can make your own unless you can buy kosher for Passover. So basically you grind sugar in a coffee grinder and you add a little bit of potato starch. And so table, please. Let me just clean it up so you can see. So it looks like this.
Beautiful.
Say that again.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, like I said, I can't cut it because I'm taking it, I'm donating these cakes, but you're gonna see yours when you cut it. And you could see a picture of it on the event page. This is the cake that was cut. So it's about
almond flour for this?
almond flour.
Yes. Instead of matzo meal.
Instead of matzo meal. Well, you need something to bind almond flour, and matzo meal is sort of absorbs the moisture in this case. So you need something like that, like we put flour in traditional cake, right, to absorb all the moisture. So I don't know. You can try making it with almond flour. I wouldn't recommend it. So this is